everyone from Los Alamos, New Mexico, from one of your favorite genealogy YouTubers. My name is Devin Noel Lee, and as you can see, my sidekick isn't here. There has been some changes at his work. He's working on a new project, and I can't tell you what it is because he can't tell me what it is because it's a hush-hush government project, and I think I'm a little too loud. Sorry about that. Let me know if it's still too loud. It just keeps going into the red. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I'm flying solo this week. Next week, if all goes well, we will start our new every other Friday live streams because Andy is now off next Friday and then 2 Fridays after and 2 Fridays after, so it's been a big change. Anyway, yes, sorry about that. I thought, oh my gosh, that's a little loud. All right, so I'm super excited to have you guys here today, and we have people from Ontario, and we have some people from Alberta, and someone who is having a hurricane beat down on them, and we have people from Ireland and all the parts around the world. So excited to have you here. So far, we started with the question of the day, what kinds of projects you are working on, and we'll just tap into that a little bit later. If you want to put a capital P in front of your project, then I'll be able to notice that later in the stream. And today we're going to talk about this article that I read that talked about what do genealogy experts do. There was a number of things in this article, and we'll be getting to that here in a minute. And we're going to get to that. So before we get started, I want to make sure everybody who is a channel member gets ready to use their yes button and the no button icons that are just for channel members. If you're not a channel member, then you're going to use your capital letters yes or the capital letters for no to vote on. Do you do one of these 5 things that expert genealogists apparently do? So go ahead and check that out. I would love to know that that is working. You have your icons going. Now, if you're watching the replay, you can definitely weigh in on the topics that we're going to cover, but you just can't say yes and no because we won't know what you're yesing and knowing to. But do tell us that yes, I do one of these things, no, I don't, and why or why not. All right, so we've got the yes buttons going and the no button going, and we have some people talking about their projects with the P in front of it. And if you have a question, then you need to put a Q in front of your question so they stand out, because I am flying solo, trying to monitor that chat, and that just kind of signals for me to see things going on. All right, so we've got, and we even got some keyboarders. You're typing the yes and the no. So let's get started. Do you do some of these things that apparently the experts do? Now, this comes from an article that was over on the Family History Daily website and blog. So if you've heard of them, go ahead and type yes right now. If you haven't, typed no. And in just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the link to the article and drop it here in the chat so that you can check it out. All right. So grabbing that, there should be showing up here in just a minute the link for the article we're going to talk about. And then, yay, all right, so several of you have heard of that Family History Daily website, and several of you have not, but now you have a link to go check them out. But so the first one of the things that they had mentioned is expert genealogists add full names for each ancestor and add parentheses around nicknames or other names your ancestor was known as. For example, Anna Marie Annie McCain. So they use a parentheses. So let me know now. Vote yes, I put the nicknames in parentheses or quotation marks, or no, I don't put my nicknames in parentheses and question marks. quotation marks, not question marks. That'd be really confusing if you put them in question marks. But then again, well, no, it would still be confusing. I was thinking of the Spanish, when you write a question, you put an upside question mark in the beginning and a correctly oriented question mark at the end. And so that's one of those things. So I was like, oh, yeah. But it still would be a question, so I don't think that would work. But in any case, the question we're asking is, do you add nicknames or other names for an ancestor with the parentheses or quotation marks? And I'm hearing some yeses, a lot of no's. And Debbie has what she does instead. Software won't understand, says C. Davis. Nicknames are in a note, not a name. Yes. So quite a few of you have weighed in that yes, we don't put the parentheses and quotation marks around the name. And some of the reasons was I used to do this on Ancestry, but now it's not a great idea. Let's see. The quotation or the parentheses may mess up your search on Ancestry, Family Search, MyHeritage, or Find My Past. And that is an accurate statement. It has been told to us every year that I go to Roots Tech or I interact with different programmers. They say, put that stuff in the note field. All right, so option one was in the name field, you can put Anne Marie McCain. And then depending on the program you use, you might have a nickname field, and also known as field, some other different fields. Sometimes you have to make a custom event or a custom field, and then you can put that nickname there. But don't necessarily put anything in the name field for your online trees because it will mess up. Oh, nice. So, yes, on Wikitree, you can add it in a nickname field. Yes, I know that is to be true. I don't know that they actually have a search feature by nickname because you're building a tree and not searching records. But I do like they have lots of different fields that I'm going to be showing in a future video where you can mark something as certain, uncertain, and so on and so forth. So they have some really cool things there. I like this. I like the honesty. I used to do that all the time, but I don't do that anymore. And that is what's happening with genealogy. Some of the things we might have done in the past, because we're using our software or we're doing our own pedigree charts by hand, yeah, we would have done that in the past, but I don't think that that's something I do at present. All right, so the other option is that you can have the name. And I'll be honest, this is kind of what I do unless there's a very drastic name change. You know, because Annie, that's a common nickname for Anna. Mary, Marie sometimes go together. Polly throws me off, so sometimes I'll put Polly as a nickname in a separate field. But what I like to use, and this is something that I started seeing because Family Search does it, the title of the source has all the spelling variation and it has a name first orientation. And then I can keep track of all the spelling variations that are coming from the records there. Let me show you what I mean. So here, source titles with alternatives. So this is Henry Gussler, and the last name is supposed to be Geisler, of Joseph Gussler. So that's the title of it. And then you have your source citation in the standard form below. Henry Bellman, well, that's what he looked like on this record. And you think, why is it the same person? Well, that's his stepfather's name. And if I click on View Source, then I can see the actual information plus my note that I left that explains why Bellman is actually my person. And then you have Geischar. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but that's how it showed up. From Geisler, it became that. And then there's another spelling without the Z, and then later on. And so that's one of the things that I like to do. It's another way of keeping track of those names without messing up like where we're going to pull to put on a pedigree chart. So what do you think about those options? Which one do you prefer, using the extra name field or the alternative titles? Let me go ahead and check. You guys have been throwing in lots of great comments. Okay, so David, I like your point. I think putting the nickname in parentheses makes sense only if the nickname is unrelated to the name. Yes and no. Remember, if it's an online tree and you want to take advantage of the automatic search hinting, you don't want to put any of those extra fields in there, or extra marks. That's what it is. Parentheses, quotations, anything that's not actually used in the names. But if you have the umlauts and the other, I can visualize the word diacritic. Where's grade when I need them? The all the different accent marks for certain names. Those you can use, but you don't want to put all these extra, hyphens and dashes and all these other things in it in order to take advantage of the searching. But if you're making your tree and you want to have that there, and you're printing it out to share to others, then that's kind of a judgment call. But I do understand that there you go, that's the word I was looking at, diacritics, that's it. I was thinking dialytics, but I don't even think that's a word. But yeah, anyway, when you're printing something out, when you're writing a family history, and if you want to use the parentheses, I'm all for it. But typically, I want to take advantage of these online sources to do some automatic hinting for me, so leave them out. All right, number 2, get ready with your yeses and your nos. So the next one says, if you're facing a problem, a brick wall, start at the foundation. Explore every person, factor, source leading to your problem, and you just might break through your brick wall after all. Begin at least 3 or 4 generations earlier than your problem ancestor for best results. So in short, the tip is, do you go back to go forward up your family tree? Do you come recent to go into the past when you're tackling a family tree? Let me know yeses and nos. Okay. I'm checking up to see a lot of projects that people have been working on. DNA project to find great-grandfather and step-great-grandfathers, multiple spouses. Oh my goodness. Update my photo room divider screen. Oh, that sounds like a fun project. Checking in on some of the other projects you guys are working on. While you're weighing in, yes, I go several generations back and then work my way to my brick wall, or not. All right, lots of yeses. I normally start with the children first. Debbie says, and use the fan club. Now, who has not? Hey, Jarrett, glad you're there. Your ears must have been buzzing. We were all talking about how much we love what you do over in your channel, and that you're on the WikiTree Challenge. So glad you're joining us here. But anyway, fan club. For those of you who aren't familiar with the fan club is friends, associates, and neighbors. Although I could be wrong. Everybody, let's figure out if that's accurate or not. I always say family, meaning the extended family, the associates, and the neighbors. So let's find out if I'm remembering correctly. Sometimes it's hard on the hot seat. But I agree with what everybody's saying, that yes, when you're tackling a brick wall, far too often we just try to research that direct ancestor from our person to that person, that person, that person. And if we don't go and pick up the children from those, the different generations that build into the brick wall, we're missing invaluable clues. For instance, I was working on the Pewsakers and the Mocks and the Chenoples, and all of them migrated to Columbus, Ohio from Germany, and of course I'm spacing out on the one place right now. Nope, it's Gillersheim. I remember, it's Gillersheim in Hanover, right? Now, I didn't know Gillersheim until I climbed my family tree and looked at all the siblings in each generation for clues. And then I also looked at the traveling companions and did multiple generations down with their children. And it was a traveling companions child by the second wife that on his stone it said where everybody was from. I'm like, So yes, if you're working through a brick wall, you need to come back to you need to come forward in time and then go back in time, picking up the most generations. One of the other thing, let's see, I need to start working on a fan club. Yeah, the fan club could help you really solve a lot of brick walls. But if you're working on, just general records and they're all proving the case, sometimes you don't need them unless you're writing a family story, because it writes a better story. But if you're tackling brick walls, you definitely want to know the fan clubs. Family, neighbors, and associates. Thank you. Family/friends, associates, and neighbors. Debbie, that is why I'm always misremembering it, because some people say family, associates, and neighbors, and others say friends, associates, and neighbors. So, thanks. Thanks for helping me remember why I'm always confused. I like this from Jared. And if you don't know who Jared is, he is Genia Vlogger, and he does some really great reaction videos here on their channel. YouTube, not my channel, his channel on YouTube. Sometimes coming forward to the point of connecting with living relatives is a great part of this method too. You never know what some cousins might be holding on to. So true. I like that. I really like that. The other reason why you want to do that is sometimes you're trying to bust through the wrong brick wall. And I went to a case study presentation one time, and this person was trying to research Scottish people based on 3 documents, and those 3 documents didn't agree, and he didn't relate to the person that they were supposed to be related to in order to get to that brick wall. I probably should have whiteboarded that, sorry. If Andy was here, we would have whiteboarded that. But the idea is you need to go back and make sure you have a solid foundation and that you're using the best information in order to climb your tree, because you could be busting on the breaking through the wrong brick wall, and you break through it, it sounds great, and then it's not your tree. Now, I would ask you to leave that on Family Search for others to take advantage of, but going backwards, or coming forward in time or backward down the tree and then working your way into the past, that can also make sure that you're actually going up the right path. Surname study and location study research. Yeah, absolutely. Family Search is a great place to put all of that, because if you abandon it, other people are going to take advantage of it. The other place you can put it is on WikiTree. All right, let's go to the next one. You guys are so talkative today and participating so well. I'm really appreciating it. So let's go to the next one. And, this kind of talks about, this slide was just reminding you, you want to peer review the research that happens before you start tackling that brick wall. So, forgot about that slide. All right, here's the next one. And it says, when you have no photos, or in place of, create icons to easily distinguish your second great-grandparents from your third great-grandparents. Makes it easier to quickly identify their relationship to show you one to another, and then they show you an example. Now notice that this pink circle is a graphic that user created. It is not a graphic that's on any of the online platforms. So here's the question, yes or no. Do you make graphics to put in place of photos to help you remember which ancestor you're talking about? Okay, I see a no. I see a yes because I have 3 Samuels in a row. No, 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 no. And then Jared is a professional genealogist. If you're a professional genealogist, put pro in the chat. That way we also know how to evaluate your opinion. And not that anybody's lesser, but remember the question was, do experts do this? And I was also wondering, do just people in general do it? So I'm seeing a lot of no. I hate those because then gives those as hints, and that's annoying. Tiffany, you know where I'm going with this, unfortunately. You're reading my mind. I would have absolutely no problem with people doing this if those icons don't get recommended as hints to other researchers. because it's your tree and you could do whatever you want. My problem with this idea is two things. One, so it says second great grandmother, but now we have a lot of programs that will tell you what your relationship is to that person. So you're making an extra icon, which is extra work. And I don't know about you, but I don't have all the time in the world to work on my family tree. So any extra stuff isn't helpful to me if it's not going to push my tree forward. So I think we should evaluate it in that way. Now, I know sometimes people would put DNA confirmed, but that was all before my tree tags happened on Ancestry. And on WikiTree, they even have all these different little icons that you can mark DNA confirmed. I want to say DNA questioning, but that's not right. But you have these different options that you can choose, and then little icons will show up in your family tree and in your profiles to help you do all these things that we used to do with graphics. So take that in consideration. If you're spending less time climbing your family tree because you're spending so much time making decorative elements, maybe that's not the best thing to do. Just started. I use clip art graphics and icons. Okay. Silver, similar to portions suffer from your last few. Okay, it's right there under the birthday. Right, exactly. All right. So let's go to the next one. Go past that one. All right. So the next thing professional genealogists or experts might do. So Randy, I can see that before we get to the next one, you said icons make it easy to see common ancestors. Okay, I can see your point. An angel for an infant, child, and death. Now that's kind of interesting. I like that. Yeah, so if it is helping you be a more efficient genealogist, then I would say yes. But if it is a time suck, then don't do it. That's the way I would kind of judge the icons in that way. All right, so here's the next one. Okay, they're talking about online trees. And we had a video earlier this week about tree hints versus record hints. And so the preposition it is we're talking about facts that you find in online trees. So check it, the online tree, for accuracy before you commit gifted findings to your tree. To be more careful, never invite online trees into your research as a source. This person says they're not doing so will only erode the quality of your work. All right, so it's a twofold question. Let's start with number one. Online trees. Do you incorporate the information you find in online trees into your online tree? Yes or no? Let's see. So we have one person in the audience who's working on a brick wall with their stepfather's paternal tree, has great-grandfather from Londonderry, Ireland in the later 1800s, but no idea about anything else before he arrived in New York. That's a great project. Stacy, it depends. And John, it depends. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you, Marianne Lee. If you are my relative, let me know. I'm glad you're joining us. If you're not my relative, then I'm still glad you're here too. But let's see. Ask for the question, do you take information from online trees and put them into your own? No, only use them as clues. Yes, but after checking the source, depends on how accurate the information is. Only MyHeritage gets the contact details. Michael, tell me what you mean by that. When I first started, yes, I grabbed everything, but I don't do that anymore. I only use them as clues. C. Davis says only incorporate as secondary unproved data. Oh, that's interesting. Stacy, I may add them, but really only keep them if I can find another source. All right, use them as clues after checking. Okay, so the next one is the other part of the question. Let's say you were blessed with a box of genealogy research from your Aunt Martha. How much do you trust Aunt Martha's information? This is a how question. I need to form it as a yes, no. Do you trust Aunt Martha's research enough to put it into your tree straight away? Yes or no? So that's the question. You've inherited genealogy research from Aunt Martha or Uncle Bert or whatever. Do you take their research and put it into your tree straight away? Eve says yes, but look for source. And you answered really quickly, and I'm super excited that you understood the question I was trying to ask before I finally got it out. Anne says no. Morris says no. Tiffany says, I don't trust Aunt Martha's research because she's crazy. But are you the crazy Aunt Martha too, Tiffany? We have to find that out. No, sorry, Aunt Martha. Louise, I like your honesty. Debbie, trust but verify. I love that phrase. I really do, because, here's an example. And it stems from going back to the wiki tree and stating a marriage detail that wasn't there for my grandma Helen. And you're going to hear this again later in an upcoming video. But in the trees, we've been putting Grandma Helen's marriage date in place, and there isn't a document for it. If there was, it was likely burned in the house, or when the state of Ohio took over my grandmother's property after a big, huge legal fight, when she was in nursing care, the record just went into a dumpster file or some archive somewhere that nobody knows of. But in any case, the date and place of her marriage is tied to her elopement, and that's a story that I've known. Now, it's been handed down to me from my mother, who interviewed her in 1977 and wrote it down, and then I've copied it multiple times into my book, my family history book, and my online tree. Now, sometimes Aunt Martha knows these kinds of stories, and she is the only source. And in that case, well, how does she know? For me, this is a story that's been handed down to me from my grandmother to my mother to me. And at one point it was written down, so I typed it up, and I didn't really keep that original note. Bad genealogist, I'm sorry. But I've learned a lot in 30 years of doing family history. But then in that case, yeah, maybe I would trust Aunt Martha a little bit more than I would. But she may not know truly the birth date of her fourth great grandfather, and she might have connected him to the wrong guy entirely. So I do like going back to that trust but verify. Kathy says, I did at the beginning, now I'm going through and use them as clues. Tiffany Min says, I'm the crazy aunt. Tiffany! And anyone who has met a Tiffany knows that we are all crazy. Annie says, or Anne says, I learned the hard way not to trust other trees. However, if you can copy an individual from another tree whose info is well sourced, then it tells the AI to give hints from the discoveries. Now that is definitely something to consider. Okay, so Kathy says, only if I knew Aunt Martha and how she did her research. Only. So C. Davis says, added with citations as secondary and unproofed. It is a source no matter. It is her story as family history, oral history, heritage. That is definitely something to consider. I like that. Thanks so much. John Tyner said, I did copy a cousin's tree and later found a direct ancestor had incorrect birth name on the surname. She was married before. Yeah, so I know that I took my Aunt Dorothy's, my great Aunt Dorothy's research, and I did have to make some corrections to that. There was another person, I'm spacing her name, Markham. Mrs. Eleanor Markham. She was much older than I when I was starting as a teenager, and we exchanged letters quite a bit. And she talked about a Gordon ancestor, because we share through the Gordon line, that's my problematic line that everybody wants to tie to Nathaniel Charles Gordon. Anyway, we are actually from a proven line, but one of the descendants from our common ancestor was married to a B.S. Smith. And yes, B.S. I always laughed about B.S. But anyway, B.S. Smith. Well, her research had followed the wrong B.S. Smith, and then now that I have access to so much more online, I was able to get that corrected. But for the most part, most of her research was pretty stand up. She actually had a lot of personal knowledge of the different people on the tree, and so hers was a lot more trustworthy and then backed up by evidence. So I do like that idea of go ahead and cite that tree, that information that you inherited from crazy Aunt Martha, because she might actually know the truth. I like that. All right, let me see if did we get to 5 yet? I forgot to number these. Nope, that was all 5. All right, so I wanted to go over some of the projects you guys were working on, and if you have any questions, go ahead and put a Q in front of it so I can see it when it's scrolling through the chat. But we have, I'm gonna come back to that one in a second. Working on finding the ship manifest for all of my great-grandparents. That's from Jordan. That's a great project. Susan's View said, you're working on determining who my paternal grandfather's biological father was. And I hope the stream's okay. Okay, I do. I was just checking something technical. So that's cool. Determine who paternal biological father is. Michael is sorting out why 2 trees have the right baptism areas and time, but other records disagree. Oh, that hurt. That's something that sounds like my brain would hurt. So I hope you don't get a headache from doing all of that. Okay, Kathy's getting ready for the Connect-a-thon on Wikitree by adding everyone to Family Search. I like that. That's a fun project. Good luck, Linda, working on your Ukrainian line. All right, so I did see a couple of questions in the chat today that I wanted to tackle. So let me see if I can bring this over very quickly. All right, Jared was saying he's eagerly waiting for results. Jared, if they find stuff, you're going to be busy for a while. I'm still busy on my results, and I haven't even processed everything, so that's going to be exciting. Okay, another question coming in. I love these questions coming in. All right, let's tackle the first one that came in. It says, what do you use for task tracking, project tracking linked to your calendar, ? Thanks. Okay. I'm not entirely sure this is going to be the answer that you are hoping for. I have a list of projects that I would like to do someday. One of them is the William Townsend project that I've been trying to do over on Facebook, and unfortunately life keeps getting in the way, so I haven't been working on that as much. So I have a list of projects. I want to write the William Townsend story. I want to create my mother-in-law's doll book. We had a problem with Shutterfly. Yeah, we had a problem with Shutterfly, so it got stalled. So I just keep that, anywhere, not tied to a date or a list. But if I'm working on a serious project, then I use a lot of templates, research plan templates, and it also depends on what my final project is. So let me show you. Let's do a little show and tell here. Get the right screen up. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is a 4-generation project in the style of the ICAP Gen or the accredited genealogist style of project writing. And one of the things that I do to keep track of, let me go down here, 4th generation. So I had this working template for proof for a birth that I'm going to do. And typically what I do is I highlight it in pink saying, okay, this is the template, you need to change it. And you're going to be looking for these types of information as you're going through the research project when you find it and you add the information. And then I do a footnote citation as I do that. So I'm pretend I'm typing the citation down below, down below. You might not be able to see it right here. There's the citation down there. Then I'll go and I'll unhighlight it. And now I know that's a step I've done. So I make my whole research plan. I've got like a report template that I use in order to write it the way it should work for proof statement. And I just use that again and again for each project. Now, as some of you know, I am not a fan of research logs. I think it's extra work. If you've seen my video on keeping track of research notes, or you've seen the video about research logs, then it tells you that I go from research plan to online tree or software, or vice versa. I build it in software and online trees, and then I move it over to a research report. But there are some of you who like research logs to keep on track, and so this is the one that I'm working on for this project. And typically what you would see when I start out, let me zoom in just a smidge so you can see, is I have like searching for the place I'm going to search, the URL, and then I'll do the rest of the research log stuff that you need, the citation and what I found there. But what will happen is, let's for just a moment, we're going to take this out. Let's say I want to look for a research birth record, a marriage record, death record, and then I'll also put land record, probate record, put all the different type of records on my left column. So that tells me the type of record I want to look at. Then I go to the Family Search Wiki and to other research guides, and then I type in what I want to look for. But if it's blank, it means I haven't done it. If I have the place I'm going to look at and I don't have a citation or results, then I know I need to put the information there. And so that's another way that you can do. So there's two ways to do it. I typically like to have a standard to-do list in my research project, and I work through that. And then I also have my research project. I have a standard to-do list in my genealogy software and my online trees, or I'm a really big fan of the research plans that become a research report, or that I can morph into a narrative story. Because I come from a journalist background, I'd prefer to tell a story than write an academic proof paper, because my family is going to actually read the journalistic style report rather than the proof paper. So I hope that answers your question, gives you some ideas. Keep asking questions here, because that is what we're here for. And ask lots of people. Go bug Jarrett. Ask him what he does. Go ask Connie and other YouTubers, what do you do? And then find the one that works for you for what you're trying to accomplish. How do you extract Ancestry color tags for spreadsheets? I don't know. That is something I'm going to have to put on our video list for the future. What is the best Irish genealogy site? The best Irish genealogy site is the one that has the answers to your questions. That's pretty sad. I don't know. I don't do a lot of research in Irish genealogy, but I will tell you where I always go to start. And John researches in Ireland, so let me also ask him to share some of his favorite. But invariably, every time I ask a professional genealogist or a professional genealogist in training, where do you start your project? Almost all of them start in the same spot. So they go to Family Search and they go to the Research Wiki. They type in the location, Irish genealogy, and they start researching, because this is a free locality guide. It is volunteer contributed and built, so it's always changing and improving. And they head here, and they also check out the records that are on Family Search because they're free, and then they start going to other places to look. But yeah, almost every project that I have worked on myself, or that I've worked on with colleagues, or colleagues have told me about, they typically start at the Family Search searchable collections as well as the Family Search Wiki to get them pointed in the right direction. And then after that, the best website is going to be the one that has the answer to your question. Recently, the answer to a question I had was on a I don't know how to, I'm going to type it in chat. Tooele County. All right. Anybody with Utah knowledge, tell me how to say that. It looks like Tooele. But I was working with that, and I was looking for proof of parental relationship to children, and I had to get into land records. The probate records were kind of locked down, but the land records told me two things happened. One record actually identified the heirs, and the other land records, there were a series, because this guy had like 15 kids. Oh my gosh, so many to research. But so he had 15 kids, and each one of the living kids was given, he would deeded land to them about a year before he passed away, so that the probate only had $300 in the entire state and no land. Now, why did he do that? To avoid paying probate taxes. So he sold everything for $5. And he was able to give that away before he passed away, and that helped me, even though he didn't say this is my son, the fact that he's doing it all on the same day with for all of the same basic area, just little apportionments, I was able to prove that relationship. So all right. So Genia Vlogger agreed that we always start on Family Search Wiki and then head off after there. And probably also the comment of the best website. All right, there were a couple other questions here I wanted to tackle before we log off for today. Oh, okay. I don't know the answer to this question. Okay, so Tiffany had a question about acquisitions. Trying to get Family Search to come and search records. Okay, I don't know the answer, but let me give you a couple suggestions. And I get these suggestions because I was working with the Texas State Genealogical Society, and they had a really cool project that they were working on. So first, go to the Family Search website and look for donations, or you could even, they have a help number at the top. Tell them what your question is and have them direct you to the person who can answer it. So that would be one of the two options. But a couple of things that you can consider is that contact your state archive and historical society. See if they have an online digital collection, because if they do, then find out what their parameters are for scanning the information and uploading it to their servers. There's a thing called the Portal of Texas. And Texas, if you were in Texas and you had a record collection, the Texas State Genealogical Society has a capture kit that they loan out for different projects. So it's not actually through the LDS Church and going on to Family Search, but it's going into the Portal of Texas. And then sometimes the Portal of Texas will work, or the Texas State Archives will work with Family Search to put more collections there, or Ancestry will work with the state archives, or Find My Past or My Heritage and stuff like that. So one of the things you could do is, if they're not going to come and get your collection very quickly, because they have like a hierarchy, I've talked to them before, they have a hierarchy of what they're going to come out and preserve. There's nothing to say that you can't see if there's a capture kit or somebody who can do some digitizing for an Eagle Scout project or something like that. Come out and do the digitizing and then put it onto the state archive website or something similar, and then try to grant the privileges so these other places could have it. I kind of do the work for them. Something to consider. Tooele. All right. Didn't have too many takers on telling me how to say Tooele, so Tiffany and I are going to call it Tooele. Check. Okay. Oh, okay. So Tiffany says a university came out to scan some of the books, but they wanted to charge to scan more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, go check out the Missouri State Archives and work with that. Find out what all the repositories in Texas. We also have a depository system. That was an interesting lecture that I attended. What's the difference between a repository and a depository? They're just both places where you house stuff. I don't know why they have different names, but anyway, just go out, figure out what the get in touch with the archivist is what I would recommend. Get in touch with them, and then and see if that can help you out. All right. Well, are there any other questions? If there's not any, how do you schedule your genealogy time? C. Davis, how do I schedule my genealogy time? I steal it from my family. No. My kids will be fighting, and I don't know about, so I was just talking about this to somebody recently, and they said, when I unwind, I binge on TVs or books or all these other things. And I'm like, when I want to unwind, I do genealogy because I don't feel guilty that I went and did something productive, because to me it's relaxing. So how do you find time? Well, in the beginning, I would make a date with myself. So when I had little kids and they napped, that was my golden hour. And I would scrapbook, and I would do genealogy, and I would do all of things like that. As they got older and they stopped napping, we still had quiet hour. And in that quiet hour, I could do some genealogy. Now that they're older, a lot of times, I homeschooled my kids. So a lot of times when I gave them assignments to do independently, I would go do genealogy at the same time. Now that they're much older, I probably do a little bit too much genealogy, and I probably should spend more time with them. So how do you schedule it? It depends on where you are in the process. I would just say, just get a calendar and make a date and stick to it. Okay. So Stacy said, how do you find beta readers for your family history stories? Well, a lot of times I have just asked friends. So I was in a book club, and the leader of the book club liked history, and she knew how much I liked writing history. And I happened to talk one day, and I said, hey, I'm writing this story, and I really wish I could find somebody to read it. And she goes, I would love to do it. Now, I would never have thought to ask her. But I think just tell people about your projects and what your needs are, put it out there, and you'd be surprised who'll read the story. I also had one of Andy's aunts read what my, where is it? The pageant memoir back there. She said, I'll be happy to read one chapter for you and give you some feedback. I had a girlfriend from high school who, from college at A&M. She's like, let me read one chapter for you. I want to read the one that's closer to when I knew you. You just have to tell people about your project and see who might be interested. Now, if you want to pay for a beta reading service, then Dan Earl, who works with Vivid Picks and all their lecture series, he recommends using Upworks, upworks.com. I'll type that into the chat. I haven't used them, but I've heard others use something similar, Upworks, and they found readers that way. All right, let me see if there are any other questions before we sign up. I love that you guys all were hanging out today with quite a few. All right. Oh, and Anna Hart said she'd be happy to read anyone's notes here. So Anna, if you go over to our our Family History Fanatics Facebook page, and either in the page in the group and let people know, they can get a hold of you that way. That could facilitate the sharing of information. How do you keep who is in photos? Oh, sorry, Andrew. Sorry, you almost missed it all. Okay, so C. Davis is how to keep. Hey, can you rephrase that question, because I'm not understanding it exactly? See if you can make that a little bit better. I did want to tell you some good news. We are so close to 50,000 subscribers here on Family History Fanatics, which means that we're going to have a giveaway. We like to do giveaways for milestones where we do something that is pretty unusual. And just to put it in perspective, if you get 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, you get a silver play button, and we can put the little placard there and we can all celebrate. I don't know if we'll ever get to 100,000. I would love to get to 100,000 subscribers, but when I was checking recently, 50,000 is pretty amazing for a genealogy channel here on YouTube. And so we are about to hit that mark. And when we do, we're going to have a big giveaway. And you need to be on our newsletter mailing list. There's a link in the description box. And if you are, then you're going to be registered for a drawing, because we're going to thank the people that helped build this channel. And those are the ones who've been on our newsletter. So make sure you get on the newsletter. But the other advantage is then when we go live, or we're going to miss a week, Andy's grandmother's funeral is next week. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get out 2 videos next week and the live stream on Friday. If we don't, I want you to be on the newsletter so you know what's happening. So make sure you help us celebrate by getting on the newsletter, and then tell your friends, families, genealogy societies that we're here to help us cross that mark and have a big old party. All right. Yeah, so Jody may be contacting Anna. I love it. That's what this community is all about. Okay, so I guess the question is, how do you keep who is who straight in photos? Take photos, write in notebooks, loose, who and what. Okay, so how do I keep track of who's who in photos? One, if it is a historically important picture, then I will share it to Family Search, and I will tag everybody, and then it shows up in everybody's profile that I tag. That helps so much to be able to keep track of that. The other thing I highly recommend is you can write things on the back of your photos, but I believe in keeping photos and stories together. There's always more to the story than what is there. And I believe in having digital copies of lots of things. So what I'm going to recommend is actually begin creating photo books. Use Shutterfly, use Mixbook, and put your picture in, and then put the caption beside it, or put the stories around the pictures. 2 reasons why to do this. Number 1, you can print out multiple copies for yourself and your family members. There is a way that they actually can order their own books, so you don't have to pay for them all if you don't want to. But the other reason is, and this is personal experience here, if your photo collection is damaged in a fire, mine was damaged in a flood of Hurricane Harvey. Our library flooded, and I had actually had a family history display in the like when you walk in, they had this big display, and a number of my family history items were ruined. However, because these projects were created using Shutterfly, all I had to do was order a new book, and I had it replaced, and so I didn't lose all of those things. So 1, I would share things online, especially the ones you absolutely want to make sure that they get passed around for generations to come. And 2, create photo books so that the stories and pictures stay together, and then you can quickly reproduce it if the worst should happen. All right. Okay, so on digital photos, somebody put text on the copy. Yeah, I know that makes sense. Okay. At time of taking photos, taking during interviews and research. Oh, here's another idea. I think I know what you're asking. So I went and visited my dad's cousins, and they had pictures for generations. And so a number of times I took pictures and I wrote notes. Like, I had their photo album, and they just had these scrap papers, and I would write notes and I would snap it, and then I was given permission to scan it like that evening and bring it back. But while we were talking, I was taking notes, ripping it off, because I forgot to take sticky notes, post-it notes to put on the albums that they had. that was one solution. When in a pinch, just grab scrap pieces of paper, rip it out, write your note, take a picture, and then when you go back, you can scan a better picture of it. But another thing you could do is just, I mean, you can do this virtually. Like, let's pretend this is a picture, right? You're on, you can record Zoom calls, you can record, I think you can record Facebook. Anyway, there's several platforms where you can record video conversations, and you can just go, okay, I'm going to talk about this picture, see this picture, and chat, 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 see this picture, chat, chat, chat. That's another way you could do that. All right, I think that's about all the questions we have today. I'm so excited for everyone who tuned in, and if you're watching the replay, be sure to put the 5 tips and whether you do some of the 5 things that the professionals do. If you had other tips that we didn't cover after reading that blog post over on Family History Daily, then be sure to share them too. Thanks for all to joining in, especially our celebrity guest in chat, Jarrett Ross. But I also want to thank each one of you for tuning in, because you make our days so enjoyable to come and talk about our passion of family history. See you next time.